The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsports Simulator, the voice of sim racing.
Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to those of you watching on YouTube and Facebook Live. This is LSRTV's coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking, live tonight from Martinsville Speedway in Ridgeway, Virginia. I'm James Pike, and I am joined tonight in the booth by my colleague Brian Macklin, and as always, the lovely and talented Cisco Scaramuza in our virtual production trailer, down a little bit closer to those really tasty hot dogs that I could go for at the moment. But Macklin, we've made it to the round of 8 here. 3 races to determine the 4 drivers that will compete for the series championship in about 4 weeks' time down at Homestead, Miami. And now that we made it this far, what sort of differences do you think we're going to see amongst our 8 playoff contenders in terms of the way they race now that they've entered the round where it gets really, really competitive?
Well, that depends on their situation. Like we were talking about last week, it really just depends on where they're at in the points. If you're one of those guys like Lionel Callisto, he starts off this round 26 points in the hole. He's the last guy that made it into this round, and he's got a very long ways to go. It's almost a must-win situation for him right off the bat. Not to say that he can't get in on points, but it's not going to be easy over the next 3 races. So he's going to have to go out here, be very aggressive, and see if he can't put himself in a position to try to win the race. If not here tonight, definitely next week at Texas or in 2 weeks at Phoenix. And then if you're one of the guys like David Washington, Dylan Jones, or David Comstock, or any of those drivers that have been consistently running up front, in my opinion, it's business as usual. They've been up front all season long. They've been contending for wins all season long. Don't do anything any different than what you have all season, because that's what's been working.
And in the meantime, we can tell you that the 8 drivers to watch who are still in the playoffs and have advanced to the round of 8 that you'll want to be watching tonight will have your red windshield banners at the top, along with your red splitters and your red rear spoilers. And they are David Washington, Dylan Jones, David Comstock, Daniel Eberhardt, Carl Shedd, Andrew Freenars, Brandon Bowie, and Lionel Callisto. Red numbers for those drivers also on the ticker that you will see displayed above the action tonight here. So look for the red. Those will be the guys that are competing for everything, and they get to start off their journey to Homestead, Miami, and this just insanely tight and tense racetrack, which has provided so much close quarters racing over the years, both in real life and in the sim, Brian.
Yeah, what an incredible way to kick off the round of 8, coming to this little track. I personally love Martinsville. I've gotten to go to this track several times in real life. I love being on this track in iRacing. It's an incredible track to drive on. And like you mentioned, James, it brings some of the most incredible and most action-packed racing that you could possibly see. These guys are going to be bumping and beating and banging all night long, and you could see the classic bump and run for a potential shot to make it into the round of 4 and a shot at winning the championship at Homestead. Don't be surprised if these guys are racing up front for the win late in this race if you don't see somebody get moved out of the way, if that's what it takes to go to Homestead.
We almost saw it last night in the Cup race. About 5 or 6 different drivers ran into each other on those final 2 restarts, and something tells me that we're probably going to see a lot of the similar sort of thing here tonight in our Full Throttle Cup Series race. Not necessarily because these guys want to, but just because it's so hard to find any sort of breathing room here. It's the shortest track on the schedule that we go to, and it just makes for really, really, really tough times getting around this place.
Not only that, but when this track is extremely hard to pass on, and after you get behind somebody that you know you're quicker than and you're running after him lap after lap after lap, you're eventually going to get frustrated. You're going to start getting a little bit more aggressive, and it's going to lead to you using the front bumper to try to move them out of the way, which, by the way, will also lead to the frustration from that driver wanting to retaliate to you, which is just going to create a lot of chaos, and it's going to make for a very exciting race for us to call up here in the booth. And I'm very interested to see how this works out, and as qualifying is about to wrap up here, James, it looks like we're going to have the David and David show on the front row, as currently David Comstock is on the pole, and to his outside, David Washington looks like he's going to get second place.
We'll touch on our grid here momentarily, but we'll go through our track facts very quickly. Before we do, we'll race for 200 laps tonight, and at just over a half-mile lap, technically 526 hundredths of a mile here to get around Martinsville. Means you're going to go for just over 100 miles here, but the 200 laps is the number you'll want to pay attention to. No banking on the straights, 12 degrees of banking in the turns, and we're led off tonight, as you said, Brian, by David Comstock, who's your pole sitter, and the winner of the spring race here, looking for the sweep. David Washington starts second tonight. Andrew Farinars is a playoff driver. He'll roll from third, joined to his outside another playoff guy, Carl Shedd. He'll start from fourth. Brandon Bowie, one of your 8 competing for the championship, starts fifth. Lionel Callisto, also in that hunt, will start sixth. Nick Silver and William Hale start 7th and 8th. 9th will be where you find Tanner Tallarico on the grid. 10th is where Sean Castro will roll off from tonight.
And starting in the 11th position, Austin Coop will start 11th. Dwayne Vincent, he was in the round of 12 but did not make it to the round of 8. He's going to start 12th here tonight. Sean Boundy will start 13th. Dylan Jones, another one of those guys that's competing for a shot at Homestead, he starts 14th here tonight. Then we have Ross Cato in 15th. Trevor Roppolo is 16th. 17th goes to Shane Ewing. Then Chris Murdoch will start 18th. 19th will be Eric Stanford, and rounding off the top 20. And the last guy to take a time here tonight, Gabe Wood, will start 20th.
Starting on provisionals in order will be Corey Wolf, Nelson Rivera, Daniel Eberhardt, Giovanni Bramanti, and Douglas Wyatt. So Eberhardt in particular you'll want to keep an eye on, since he is a playoff driver and has a lot of experience running well at short tracks. When we went through our short track swing in April, he won 2 of the 3 races. This is the only one that he didn't get checked off the list, so he'll be hungry to drive through the field and try and get the victory this evening. Final thoughts from you, Mr. Beckman, before we go green, on anything else that we haven't touched on in pre-race that you think we should be watching out for tonight?
Well, I expect if we get some long green flag runs that, much like we saw yesterday in the Monster Energy Cup Series race, the racing groove here at this track will move up. These guys are going to start off running right around the bottom of the racetrack, trying to hook that curb through the middle of the corner. But as the tires wear out and as the rubber gets laid down, I think you're going to see that groove begin to move up, and you're going to see guys using that middle, maybe even the higher groove, just to try to get off the corner and get a run, which is going to make for some interesting racing, because when you have that going on and you've got a guy that's going to dive to the bottom to try to make something happen, it could make for a messy ending when they get to the middle of the corner.
You guys out and about and spinning around more often than not ends up being the case when you have somebody just completely overshoot the corners here at Martinsville. But you can also see the outside work on restarts a little bit. Maybe not to the same extent that we saw, especially towards the end of the Cup race last night, but it's certainly a possibility. If you get the right jump on someone to make things happen and get a really, really good drive, especially off of turn 2, to beat somebody down into 3 and go take that inside lane all for yourself. Glad to have you here with us on LSRTV, your home for sim racing for the 33rd race of the 2017 Full Throttle Cup Series season. David Comstock leads the field to the start-finish line, and we are green in Martinsville, and he'll get away nicely. It looks like David Washington is going to be able to slide in front of Andrew Farinars, side by side for the 4th position between Carl Shen and Lionel Callisto, and then Brandon Bowie back there leading a whole host of cars towards the back of the top 10.
Everybody right now trying to fight for the bottom of the racetrack, and behind Bowie we've got Nick Silver that's on the hunt right now as he's trying to get that position, and it looks like he's going to win the battle over the 62 of William Hale, and now he's going to try to get away from that and start setting his sights on Brandon Bowie. And look at Bowie, he's already tried to move up the racetrack as he's running the middle of the groove in the middle of 3 and 4 right there. Not sure if he missed a corner or if that was the lane he just chose to run, but it looks like now he goes back to the bottom of the racetrack. And meanwhile we have some more side-by-side racing going on right behind them. Sean Casto is now battling with William Hale, and he too has won that battle and moved ahead of the 62 car.
Really strung out here throughout the top 10, just trying to see if there's any decent battles or anything of the sort anywhere through this field, and they've just about all gone single file. Daniel Everhart is the only one really making any sort of move, and he's now up past, I believe that's Eric Stanford, to go to 21st. Now he's going to work on the rear bumper of Nelson Rivera for 20th, but I think more so than just about any other race this season, they really just want to click some laps off of the board early.
Well, and for Daniel Eberhard, he has to be very careful right here. He did not get a lap in qualifying. He started back in the 23rd position. He's in a very vulnerable position. Remember, we don't have anybody that's got a win to lock themselves into Homestead yet. If they get a win here tonight, they would do so. But right now, points are what's going to matter for Eberhard until he can get closer to the front. And if he gets caught up in something early while he's running back here, it could be detrimental to his chances at going to Homestead. So he needs to be very patient here to try to get through this field cleanly without getting into anything, and make sure that he's around for the end of this race.
And it almost was really impatient at the front of the field because David Comstock came out of turn 2 sideways. I think he might have gotten a little bit of help from David Washington there. Somehow Comstock was able to hang on to it, but at the end of it, he slid back. Farinars was able to get around him too, and David Washington is now your new race leader, 7 laps in.
And looking back at that coming off the corner, it does look like there was a little bit of contact, but I believe Comstock was trying to come down off the corner to get a straight shot onto the back straightaway, and he just kind of came down into the right front of David Washington. So I don't necessarily believe that was the fault of David Washington. I think that was just two drivers coming together at the wrong place at the wrong time. But it worked out for David Washington as he was able to take the lead, and now he's going to try to drive away from these guys. And now Comstock has to get a little bit aggressive to see if he can't get back up there as he's falling back to the 4th position, just trying to hang on to that car right now. I believe those tires might be a little upset as it looks like that car is skating around since that happened.
Maybe needs them to come up to temp, or just has the car set up too loose at the beginning of this race and this green flag run. Definitely not certain one way or the other, but you've got a great big pumpkin colored car at the front of this thing at the moment. Washington ahead of Farinars by about maybe 2-3 car lengths, if that, and then maybe another 4 to Lionel Kalisto, who has consistently been in the top 10 in a lot of these races. He pointed his way into the round of 8, but doesn't have the victory yet, and I have a feeling that if he can keep the car clean, this might be one of his best chances to lock himself into Homestead early. And I don't think either of us can understate how big that would be for Kalisto after he hasn't necessarily been the fastest of the playoff drivers. He's been quick, but I think it would be a very, very big thing for him to lock a spot in early.
Oh, absolutely, and that's exactly what he's trying to do here, and he has really rose to the occasion because he was one of those guys that, while he made it through to this round, I think we all kind of wrote him off pretty early just because he had the points gap. He's 26 down. I think he's trying to prove that he's not the underdog here, that he can actually come in and be a threat to win this championship and be a threat to make it to the Final Four, and he's doing a really good job right now. If he can keep that car clean here tonight, I fully expect he's going to stay up inside the top 5 and may be one of those guys that can get up there and give David Washington and Andrew Farinars a run for their money. He's got some speed in that car right now, and he's staying right with them. I'd really like to see what he's got on the long run here because I think he's going to have a pretty good shot.
Starting to work the rear bumper of Farinars now. It's really coming together nicely for Kalisto, who has kind of moved his way up through the field ever so slightly. Started 6th on the grid and up 3 spots at the moment since the drop of the green to 3rd. So Kalisto coming along very, very nicely, and I think we could probably say the same about Mr. Daniel Everhart too. Started 23rd, up to 15th and put the fastest time in practice on the board as well before qualifying with a 19.563. So Eberhardt's got the speed that you'd want out of someone who has a chance to win here. I wonder if it goes for a long green flag run or two, if it's only a matter of a win until he's up there racing these guys for the race lead.
Oh, I believe that here very soon we're going to be talking about Daniel Eberhardt getting up there. If he can get a caution, especially to bunch these guys back up and give him an opportunity to get a little bit closer, I think we're going to see him up there battling inside the top 10, possibly inside the top 5, and definitely for a win before this thing is all said and done. But back at the front of the field, looks like these guys are starting to bunch up just a little bit. Looks like David Comstock has started to get closer to the back bumper of Lionel Callisto as he's been breathing down his bumper for the last lap and a half or so. He gets right on him in the middle of the corner, just can't quite get close enough to make a move on him, and it looks like Callisto is able to get the drive up off the corner, but Comstock is really driving that car in hard into the corner. That's going to be really hard, not only on the right front tire, but also on the brakes, James. You don't want to be doing that too early in the race because you need to save your stuff for later on.
Equipment isn't necessarily friends with Martinsville, I guess, if we were going to put it in the lightest terms. And the brakes in particular, you can cook quite a few eggs with the amount of heat that they build up over the course of a green flag run, and they will glow like jack-o'-lanterns in the Halloween night if you get them lit up in real life here. You don't see it in the sim as your leaders start to work lap traffic, but the effects of it are still there and still can make that brake pedal a little bit spongier than you'd like and just make it tricky for drivers to get slowed up enough to get through the corner the way they'd like to.
Wow, and Comstock about moved Lionel Callisto right there in turns 3 and 4. It looked like Callisto missed the corner just a little bit. That allowed Comstock to get right on his bumper, but he was not able to actually hit him and move him up out of the groove. Came very close, but wasn't quite able to do it, and he stays right there. Meanwhile, right behind them, we got a nice battle forming up between Carl Shedd and Brandon Bowie, as Bowie is still moving up in that groove just off the bottom of the racetrack. He's running the middle into the corner, and then he dives the car down to the bottom to exit the corner, and it's really seemed to be working for that 44 machine as he's closed in on Carl Shedd, and now he has to start looking for a way to get around him. This is where racing at Martinsville can be very frustrating. Brandon Bowie has ran him down, gotten right to his back bumper, but now where does he go? How does he make the move? It's extremely hard to get the run up off the corner to make the move to get to the inside, so that's when you have to make that conscious decision. How long do I wait before I start using the bumper to move this guy out of the way? And then you have to worry about, is he going to come back after me and try to do it to me once I actually do move him out of the way?
I think the interesting thing that I'm seeing between these two is that Shedd has shifted his line in response to the lines that Bowie has been running the last few laps. As Bowie tries to get underneath him, Shedd kind of apexes through the center and slides up a little bit to make sure Bowie can't get the run on corner exit, and then exits the corner very, very low. And that takes away any room that Bowie would like to have to build a run-up on Shedd going into the corner, and effectively just kind of boxes him in there and keeps him stuck. So if Bowie's going to make a move, he might just have to do it on the outside.
And we have a battle for second place right now. Lionel Callisto and Andrew Freenars are side by side for the second position. Freenars is on the bottom, Callisto's on the outside. Looks like Callisto's got the run up off the corner. Now the question is, can he make the pass as they go off into turn 1? He's got the advantage. Freenars slides up in the middle of the corner and almost makes contact with the number 97 machine. And now it looks like Callisto is going to win the battle. Indeed he will, as he's able to go back to the bottom of the racetrack. And now Lionel Callisto has moved into that second position. Freenars is back to third, and he looks like he's falling a little bit more than that because now Comstock is all over him trying to take that position away as well.
So now Comstock's going to try and shift his lineup as Bowie cleared Carl Shedd. Here comes Comstock underneath the 88 of Freenars. Down to the inside goes the 42. And he needs a decent run here off the corner. Got a little bit loose on corner exit, so it's not his position yet. Freenars is able to jump back down to the bottom and block David Comstock. But I think if you're Comstock, your main concern might not necessarily be the 88 so much as it is the guy behind you in the 44, because Brandon Bowie's coming. He's really outrun these guys ahead of him by about a second or two a lap since he got around Carl Shedd. So if you're Comstock and you can't clear Freenars here shortly, this could very well become a 3-car battle quickly.
And that's the last thing you want right now. You want to try to get around Freenars and be able to set your sights on the guys ahead of him. But he's having a very hard time because Freenars is able to roll the top. As funny as that sounds at Martinsville, when Comstock gets to the inside of him, Freenars is able to roll the top and carry the momentum off the corner and be able to hold him off. And that's exactly what he needs to do here. Comstock has got to find a way to make that move without messing up, and he certainly has to do it very quickly, as you mentioned, because Brandon Bowie looks like he's got one of the fastest cars on the track right now. He's been consistently just a little bit quicker than David Washington. The problem is he is still 2.4 seconds behind, as he does cut in about a half a tenth right there. And he's got several fast cars that he's got to work his way around. But that 44 car, like you mentioned, he is flying right now. If he can get some track position, they better watch out in front of him.
Speaking of in front of them, I think it's also worth noting that Lionel Kalisto has managed to drive away from Freenars and create a bit of a gap between himself and the 88, up to about maybe 5, 6, 7 car lengths from the rear bumper of the 97 to the front nose of that 88 machine. So going to be a very, very nice little battle that you've got there. And then looks like you've got a little bit more going on further back. Nick Silver and Dylan Jones having a good race there. Jones up 6 spots since the drop of the green. You move back a little bit more. You've got Sean Casto and Austin Coop running together, racing for the 10th position. And then another battle way further on the back of the field. William Hale, Sean Boundy, and the lap car of Eric Stanford getting into it. So good battles here all over the racetrack.
Absolutely, but this battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th continues to get a little bit hotter because now Brandon Bowie is there. Comstock has had to play defense as well as play offense. He's trying to pass the 88, but he's also trying to hold off the 44, and Bowie has got a very fast car right now. He has been able to get right to the back bumper of Comstock, and now he looks to the inside down in turn 1. Comstock goes to the outside. Can he hold him off coming off the corner? It looks like he will. He's able to get the run up off the corner. He's able to clear the 44, and now he's got a little bit of breathing room, as it looks like Bowie might have got a little loose, and now he has an opportunity to go after Freenars, but Comstock slid through turn 3 right there and gave up a ton of momentum, and that allowed Andrew to be able to get away just a little bit, only by about a half a car length, but it's enough to where he has a gap that he can work with for a couple of laps now.
That's the interesting thing, is that it looks like Comstock and Bowie are just trying to give Freenars a gap, and he just can't open one up, so that car just isn't quite handling the way I think it needs to in order to be competitive on the terms of Kalisto and Washington. So look for Freenars to make some adjustments when he comes down pit road for the first time, and not too long from now. And Comstock and Bowie in turn will try and get back up on it and see if they can charge around the 88. I thought we were going to have a moment there where Bowie would say, if you decide you can't go get to him, then I'm going to see what I can do and get around Comstock, but he hasn't been able to do it yet. So might take a few more laps until we see Bowie racing with Freenars.
And he's certainly got a very strong race car as he continues to just get right to the back bumper of David Comstock. But again, the problem is it's so hard to pass, and you have to be mindful at this point. We're on lap 40 of a 200-lap race. You don't want to upset your competitors this early in the race and give them a reason to go after you when it gets towards the end of the race. You want to save those moves for the end. So if I'm Brandon Bowie, as frustrating as this is right now, I don't want to lay the bumper to David Comstock and move him out of the way, because David's not going to forget, and he's going to come back and get me. So you have to be very careful about planning those moves and making sure you don't do them too soon. That way you have an opportunity to do it at the end of the race without the repercussions coming as easily. So he's being very careful right now, and I think he's going to continue to do so at least for a little while longer. If this thing gets too much more strung out and he continues to lose time to the leaders, though, I think the patience may begin to run thin, and he might actually start trying to use that bumper. But for now, he seems to be very calm and very patient behind that 42 machine.
And it might not even be the drivers in front of him. It might be more of the guys behind him, because we know Bowie's been able to catch up to them now. And now Carl Shedd's making it back up into this. And he's brought along with him the 24 of Nick Silver and the 11 of Dylan Jones. So could be a 5-car battle here for the 4th position if we're not careful.
And And while that's going on, I just want to take an opportunity to note that 43 laps into this race, out of the final 8 contenders that are racing for a shot to go to Homestead, all 8 of them are currently inside of the top 9. That's how competitive these drivers are and how much they are trying to rise to the occasion. They have all managed to get into the top 9, and that's including Daniel Eberhardt, who started all the way back in the 23rd position, took a provisional, did not get a lap in qualifying. He had to start at the back of the pack, and he has climbed in the first 44 laps all the way up to 9th. That car is very fast, and I believe with a caution he might be a guy to worry about, but right now we got to worry about this battle still going on for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, as David Comstock once again has gotten right to the back bumper of Andrew Freenars, but still just cannot seem to do anything to get by him.
42 still seems a little bit loose, especially on quarter exit, and he can't quite lay down the power the way he'd like to, I think. So just trying to get that 42 felt out, maybe work with the tweak pedal settings or anything of the like, and just see if you can do something. But he, I think wisely in this case, lets the 44 go by and is going to give Brandon Bowie the chance to poke the hole past the 88, which Comstock hopes he'll be able to just follow right through.
And something that we haven't really talked much about that is a major factor here at Martinsville is lap traffic. And for David Washington, that's exactly what he's beginning to deal with. He has caught several cars that are fighting for position on the racetrack, and he's trying to lap them and try to maintain his gap over Lionel Callisto, which is just under 0.8 of a second right now. The problem is he's got 2 guys right in front of him that are battling side by side for position. Nelson Rivera and Shane Ewing are battling. You can't expect them to pull over when they're battling side by side like that, as much as you may want them to. They have every right to be racing the way they are, which is going to hold David up and give Lionel Callisto that opportunity to go up there and try to get the lead away from him and potentially maybe work his way through the traffic. And now you see David Washington really having to be careful here, which has allowed Lionel Callisto to close that gap down to just a few car lengths. If they battle too much longer, this is really going to hurt Dave, and it could give Callisto that opportunity he needs.
Could give Callisto that opportunity, but looks like that battle, well, I was about to say I thought that battle had subsided, and then Nelson Rivera just drove right underneath Shane Ewing in the 32 machine and is still trying to find a way around the 32. So nothing yet here, but that bottleneck that it's created has been perfect, and Callisto's already right on the rear bumper of David Washington. Next car in line would be Freenar still, who has managed to hold off Brandon Bowie for the moment. The question will be for how much longer.
They are wrecking at the front of the field right here, right in front of the leaders. As a matter of fact, as Shane Ewing went around, he spun and actually collected David Washington and Nelson Rivera. Heavy contact to the number 98 machine. Heavy damage to the front end of that number 98 machine. And it's certainly going to be a factor in this race. And that brings out our first caution of the evening. And Lionel Callisto was able to get through unscathed. However, Dave Washington, he's going to have some work to do down on pit road.
And there was absolutely nowhere for David Washington to go in that ordeal. You saw the contact happen in front of him on our LSRTV replay, and there was just not anywhere that he could have gone, because when you're moving that quickly and traveling so close to each other like they are at Martinsville, you can get on the brakes and it won't even make any difference. So big time front end damage for David Washington. Now, thankfully, since this is Martinsville, I think there's probably no track on the calendar that is less aero sensitive than this place, but you have to worry about suspension, you have to worry about water temps and that radiator busting, and you have to worry about the engine too, I think, at this point, just to be safe. So we'll see what kind of work Washington and company can do on pit road.
Well, and the answer to that is none. They've just rolled away from pit road without really working on that car at all. Looks like they're just going to leave it the way it is. And like you mentioned, the aerodynamics don't really matter here. So maybe they've just decided that they're going to just take a chance and see what happens. But that did cost him the race lead, as Callisto was able to take advantage of that and jump out in front because of that. And now he's going to be scored as the race leader. And it looks like Andrew Freenars will more than likely assume the second position here. And then David Washington falls back to third. So I'm very interested to see what happens with this number 98 machine, James, because with that damage, while the aerodynamics aren't really that important, it could still affect the handling on that car, and it could definitely hurt him here tonight.
It could, but I look at that car and I'm most worried about the toe on the left front of that machine. That's what's going to be out of whack, I think, for the 98 of Washington. And if there are any sort of issues that we see on a consistent basis for the rest of this race, I think that's where the problem is going to be.
Yeah, and that's going to be something to watch here throughout especially this next run, to see how it really affects the 98 machine. And while he has a very nice cushion coming into this race as far as the points are concerned, he can't afford to have a bad race, because one bad race puts him in a vulnerable spot to where if he has another bad race, he could potentially be one of those drivers that's on the outside looking in going into the final race before they head to Homestead. He doesn't need to have that happen here. As we get back to racing here in just a moment, he's going to have to be very careful and make sure he doesn't put himself in a bad spot. If that car is not handling well, he just needs to try to hang on and hopefully catch a quick caution so he can get some damage fixed.
You don't have much time to fix a car under yellow. Listo and Freenars are your top two. Looks like we might get one more lap here of yellow just to sort out this field. So gives us a chance to sort through your top 10 as they will come back to the start-finish line for this restart, which looks like this. Lionel Kalisto, Andrew Freenars, David Washington, Brandon Bowie, David Comstock, Dylan Jones, Carl Shedd, Nick Silver, Daniel Eberhardt, and Austin Coop. Your top 10 drivers right now at Martinsville. That's how they'll line up for the restart. Kalisto to the inside of Freenars here.
And as the pace car gets ready to pull away right now, Lionel Kalisto is going to assume the race lead for the first time under green when they get back around. Can he hold on to it? That's the big question. He's on the loud pedal. We're back under green here at Martinsville, and he immediately is able to get away, and Freenars is able to hang on to second. And now the battle is on behind them as Brandon Bowie is to the outside of David Washington, trying to carry some speed off the corner. Can he get the run up off turn 2 that he needs? It looks like he is going to carry that speed. It looks like there might be some motor damage on that 98 machine, as Bowie was able to easily get by him, and now he's under fire once again by Dylan Jones and David Comstock as they head back to the stripe.
And now we're really going to see just how much that hurts David Washington in the points, because you're right, he does not have the straightaway speed that he had before the incident, so he's going to drop pretty quickly towards the back of this field as they nearly go 3 wide and do go 3 wide in the corner, and somehow they keep it off the wall. I don't know how much longer that'll last for, but everybody going left and right to get around the very wounded 98 machine.
And he has dropped like a rock, already almost out of the top 10 right now as he's getting passed by Nick Silver. He's getting passed by Austin Coop, another near 3 wide experience. Coop slides up into him, they make contact, and wow, what a scary moment right there, as that's going to send the 98 even further back. So a huge implication into his playoff hopes. Of course, like we mentioned, he does have a little bit of a cushion, but this is not what he needed to start off the round of 8. He's definitely going to have his work cut out for him in the next 2 races. But meanwhile, back at the front, Freenars has really ran up onto the back bumper of Lionel Kalisto and is giving him a run for his money right now. Looks like that 88's got some short run speed, James, and he's showing it right now as he is challenging for that race lead.
Washington, as it stands, may drop all the way back to, I would say, at least 19th here once this settles in the immediate future and be the last car on the lead lap. The question is, how far back will he fall in the final running order? He came into this race 38 points to the blue, or good, above the cut line, so definitely some breathing room to work with, and he wouldn't necessarily fall out of the playoffs as they ran in this race, since we do have just 25 cars on the track tonight. But as you said, Macklin, it's one of those cases where if you burn your mulligan here, then it means you're racing just as hard as everybody else is at Texas and Phoenix, and that's never really a position that anybody wants to be in.
Not at all, and this is just one of those unfortunate circumstances where he was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's short track racing, especially here at Martinsville. We have another caution here at the racetrack. It looks like there's a car around on the front stretch. I didn't quite catch the number. It looks like it's Dave Washington. As a matter of fact, we were just talking about him. He is around on the front stretch, so he's going to bring out the second caution of the day, and actually looks like he had a little bit of help, James, as he was turned by, I believe that was the 62 machine of William Hale coming up off the corner.
It was William Hale in the 62 machine. A little bit of damage on the left front quarter panel there of Hale's car, but more damage for David Washington, whose nightmare of a race continues. And I think that car just looks like it's been all spooked out already and would love nothing more than to go through on the ghost sheet and hide Charlie Brown style to get back in the garage while it's still in one piece.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have their work cut out for him on that number 98 machine. And now I think he has to just go ahead and sit here, get some damage fixed. Even if it means losing a couple of laps, we have to assume there's going to be some more cautions, and that would give him an opportunity to get some damage fixed. But interesting call here for the 97 of Lionel Kalisto. He will give up the race lead along with Brandon Bowie, and they came to pit road for tires and fuel here. It looks like Andrew Freenars might have made that move as well as Carl Shedd. So a handful of drivers that were running up inside the top 5 elected to pit, while David Comstock, Nick Silver, Sean Kalisto, a handful of others elected to stay out on the racetrack.
So a shake-up in the running order at the front of this field, and we'll see how that shakes out once everybody kind of cycles through pit stops and we get everybody reorganized at the front of this field. But Martinsville's a place where track position traditionally can mean something for at least a few laps, and looks like, Mr. Macklin, that a few of our drivers have decided that the track position is more important than the fresh rubber and might be jumping up towards the front of this field.
Well, and this is going to be the first real chance for us to see which is more important. Is the track position going to be the winner here, or is the fresh tires going to be the winner here? It was only, maybe 7 or 8 laps on the tires from that run to the caution flag, but that could have been just enough to where these guys might be at a disadvantage to them. It looks like it was actually about 10 laps, so going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. It looks like Lionel Kalisto is going to line up in the 6th position here, so he'll line up 3rd on the outside row when they go back green. That's not too terrible, and if the tires make a difference here, he could march his way through this field pretty easily and be challenging for the race lead after just a handful of laps.
Now, most of these teams practice in midweek, and they'll know just what kind of fall off we have on these tires through distinct numbers of laps, because they've done their homework and they've done their research and recorded all of that data through Joel Real Timing, which is a proud presenting partner here on LSRTV of tonight's coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series. As the official timing software of LSRTV, whether you spend your time on the sim, behind the wheel, on the pit box, or from the spotter's stand, GRT is the go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. You can get yourself a basic download for free or get the pro version today at joel-real-timing.com as we get a restart in which everything got really hairy at the front. Nick Silver spun the tires a little bit and then they make contact. Silver's going to go around right in front of the field, and he will get a little bit of contact from Daniel Eberhardt, I think. Yes, Eberhardt, one of the playoff drivers with a good amount of front-end damage to that 90 machine. So there's, I think, everything that you need to see the importance of qualifying up front. He had to take the provisional and got sucked towards the back of the field and ended up in all this mess anyway. Same can be said for Trevor Roppolo in the 9 machine. He also has a lot of front-end damage to his car.
And that was a wild restart, and it looks like for the number 46 of Sean Casto, he just wheel hopped going into the corner and got a little hot going into the corner, couldn't get the car slowed down, slid up the track, got into the 24 Nick Silver and kicked him around. So just one of those unfortunate circumstances where you just got in there a little bit hotter than you meant to, and it just didn't work out in his favor. But like you mentioned, this is another playoff contender now that has some damage. I don't believe Daniel Eberhardt is as serious as what we saw for David Washington. I certainly think he's going to be able to keep that car in pretty good shape. We'll have to wait and see how bad that damage is. It might be worse than what we know based off what we saw with David Washington, but I think he's going to be okay here. And he's actually not going to have an opportunity to work on this car right now because in one of the unfortunate situations with iRacing, there was a scoring error and he's trapped behind the pace car at the tail end of the lead lap. And in order for him to stay on the lead lap, he's going to have to take the wave around right here. Otherwise, he would lose a lap by going to pit road. So I think you're going to see this number 90 machine elect to stay out here. That way he does not lose that lap and potentially be out of the opportunity to get up there and challenge these guys.
Just have to wait and see and watch. We've got some time on these yellow flags to kind of sort through things, and of course the admins here, Kyle Barnes and company up in the tower, can shuffle around the decks as they need to see fit to compensate for any sort of computing errors that you might see in the sim. So I think what needs to be reiterated is that it is still Comstock and Callisto up at the front of this field, and then currently scored in that third position is the 53 of Austin Coop. And Tanner Tallarico's up there too. Those are two names we haven't spent a lot of time talking about tonight, but managed to kind of survive all the chaos there in the Nick Silver spin and get up towards the front of this field.
And now they have an opportunity to hold on to this track position. We still haven't gotten the one to go to send these guys back to green flag racing, but Austin Coop, Tanner Tallarico, also two drivers, non-playoff contenders, just looking for their first win of the season, and it would be a big deal for one of them if they could get the win here tonight at Martinsville. So certainly expect them to use this track position to their advantage to make a statement, say, hey, I'm here to win, and maybe give themselves a shot and play spoiler for all these playoff guys, because that's exactly what they're here to do. And be very excited to see if one of them could pull it off. But I believe we're going to get the one to go this time, Mr. Pike, and that's going to give these guys one more lap around this track before they go back green. And to shuffle the board for you, it's going to be David Comstock as the race leader. Lionel Callisto will start second, Austin Coop third, Tanner Tallarico is fourth, then Freenarge is in fifth, Brandon Bowie sixth, Sean Boundy seventh, Dylan Jones eighth, Carl Shedd is ninth, and running out the top 10, Corey Wolf.
For the restart to come on lap 78 of 200. So already past the 125 to go mark, so things are starting to click along, but cautions have bred cautions in the past, but this restart looks like it'll be a little bit cleaner. When we say a little bit, we mean a lot. Everybody gets into turn one okay. Comstock there. Looks like he'll clear Callisto out of the corner. Maybe not. Might take him to all the way into turns 3 and 4 to do it. But 42 still leading this field. Tries to get around the corner. And yes, not a lot of room, but gets around the 97. So that's settled. And then Austin Coop sits in the third spot, trying to hold off Andrew Freenarge, who now is underneath the 53 on the bottom and got a pretty good run. So I think that might be Freenarge's spot here within the next moment or two. Behind those, it's Brandon Bowie and Tanner Tallarico side by side for the 5th position.
And while all that goes on, Lionel Callisto is still right on the back bumper of David Comstock. And this is new tires versus old tires. Comstock stayed out on 10-lap older tires. Lionel Callisto came in and got new tires, and he's trying to use them to his advantage right here as he's able to get right to the back bumper of David Comstock. But now he's in the same situation that Comstock was in when he was stuck behind Andrew Freenarge. He wants to make that move to try to take the race lead away, but how aggressive do you get to make that move? He's got the faster car because he's got the faster tire, or the fresher tires, but now you have to be careful not to make that move that could possibly upset the competitor. It's a very fine line that you're walking here at Martinsville when you're trying to race for the lead like this. And it looks like Comstock's going to get loose, and that might lead to the battle that he needs as Callisto moves to the outside for the lead.
Callisto now to the outside, trying to take the lead away from David Comstock. Might regroup here and get down to the bottom if he can't make the outside work, but we've seen people be able to make that top side work if he can get a drive up off the corner and make it stick, and he does just that. Callisto hops around the outside of David Comstock and takes the race lead away, and now it'll be Andrew Freenarge's job to go up and catch the 42 machine while holding off Brandon Bowie and a hard-charging Dylan Jones, who is now up to P5.
And how about that drive for Dylan Jones? We haven't really talked about him a whole lot. He started back in the 14th position, but now he's starting to find his way closer to the front of the field as he too is trying to make his way up there, battling with Brandon Bowie back there for that 4th and 5th position. And he looks like he's got a really fast car. He's also started to move his lineup. He runs that middle groove on corner entry, and then apexes the corner, gets to the bottom of the racetrack, and gets a really good drive up off the corner. Now he runs right around the bottom. So he must have heard me talking and decided he wasn't going to do that, because now he's changed his line around. But these guys just continue to evolve in this race, and look at this top 5. They're right all over each other, and we're back under caution here at Martinsville.
Yellow flag out once again. Hearing that it is Nelson Rivera who got caught up in things, and we'll see if we get a replay up for you momentarily. Currently has that 7 machine parked on pit road, and I think That would be because he spun around in turn 2, and it looks like he got a little bit of help. No, actually. I thought he got help from, I think it was Shane Ewing to his outside, but looks like he just tried to get into the gas too early on corner exit and looped himself into the inside retaining wall.
Yeah, just got in the gas too soon, got the car loose and bounced off the inside wall, and looks like there's some damage to that car. But now we have cars on pit road here once again, and it looks like that's everybody on pit road right now, including our race leader Lionel Kalisto, David Comstock, Andrew Freenars. They're all in for another round of pit stops, and now the big question is, do we have any 2 tire takers? Indeed we do. Andrew Freenars is going to take 2 tires and will easily be the winner off of pit road. Now we have a drag race to the line, and I believe Kalisto is going to win that battle to get second, and then David Comstock will come out third, Brandon Bowie will be fourth, and then we have Dylan Jones back in the 5th position.
Jones back in 5th, and then I think might be, as we look and see how things shake themselves out, I think it's Tanner Tallarico who was able to jump ahead of Austin Coop and go get the 6th position. While we have a moment, we'll stop here under yellow and remind you that coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle and Cup Series is brought to you tonight on LSRTV by Hippie's Paint Shop. Hippie's Paint Shop has over 5 years of experience providing top quality custom paint schemes for all iRacing vehicles at a low price. Because after all, at Hippie's Paint Shop, the cost isn't high, just the painter. Long association with Dwayne, Vincent, and Douglas Wyatt for the folks at HPS, so I know they'll be happy to see Dwayne holding down a top 10 spot, currently right at the edge of it in the 10th position, but Mr. Vincent, I know, will be working to try and race his way a little bit up further through the field than that as this progresses. And something tells me with the experience he has in this series, he'll know what to do to kind of navigate around this rash of cautions that we've had, because they do tend to bunch up on you if you don't get a long green flag run here in Martinsville.
And as you mentioned on the last restart, cautions breed cautions, and that's what we've seen here so far since we had our first caution. It hasn't really went green for more than a handful of laps, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here with Freenars controlling this thing, and Kalisto on the outside. It's 2 tires versus 4 tires this time, James.
2 versus 4 for everybody else. Very good jump for Freenars there. He'll get away. Kalisto is able to clear Comstock before they get to the first corner, who is able to clear, looks like Dylan Jones and Brandon Bowie, so they'll be the first 2 that run side by side down the back straight. But Jones has the better spot, I think, on that inside racing groove and should be able to get around Bowie here in just a little bit of notice. And then the onus falls on Austin Coop to try and run down both of these guys. He's managed to clear Tanner Tallarico to go get that 6th position back.
And Tanner Tallarico is doing everything he can right now, running in that 6th position, or trying to take that 6th position away from Austin Coop. And Coop is having a really solid run here since having the fresh tires put on his car. He makes a move to look to the inside at Brandon Bowie, and now we have a battle for second. Right ahead of these guys is Comstock's on the outside of Kalisto trying to make the move. Can he get the run up off the corner? He's trying, and as they get down into turn 3, he sails it off in there and is able to get to the door of Kalisto. Now he's going to try to carry that speed up off the corner once again. Gets a good run up off and stays even with him as they head to turn 1, and now he's trying once again to make that move. And this has been a pretty incredible move on his part to move to the outside that quickly. We haven't seen the outside line really get this strong this early into a run. It normally takes 10 to 15 laps, but he's making it work right now.
Really starting to push and run to try and get things going. There is Comstock, but he still doesn't have the leverage he needs on Kalisto. And oh, by the way, Dylan Jones has come up through this field and has worked his way over the first just under 100 laps here as they work lap 96. Laps to try and get up towards the front of this. Guess what? He's there. So a new player for the lead and a race win has entered the game.
And he's got a very fast car, but right now he's trapped behind two guys that are battling for second as Kalisto clips the curb into the corner, almost slides up into the door of Comstock, but somehow manages to hang on to that car, and they were able to get away cleanly. But Comstock now has to be very careful, because that could have been huge if they would have made contact and got him turned sideways, but he's able to hang on, and now they're still battling side by side. And to what I was trying to say, Dylan Jones absolutely has nowhere to go, and we're back under caution here at Martinsville, so it doesn't matter. And looking for the reason for the caution, looks like it was on the back straightaway. Looks like it was Shane Ewing in that 32 machine going around, coming off turn 2. Very similar to what we saw happen to Nelson Rivera. Looks like he just got back in the gas too soon, spun it out, and brings out another caution here tonight.
Brings out another caution, brings just about everybody to pit road except for Brandon Bowie and Austin Coop, who decide to stay out. So those two will lead us to the next restart no matter what. Who else decides to stay out there? Looks like a few more drivers. Can't quite tell if we've got anybody of the lead lap contingent still up there. No, just those two. So everybody else was off the lead lap, so we'll watch the battles on pit road, see if Andrew Freenars goes and gets the 2 tires that he missed on that last set of pit stops to try and even things out.
We'll have to see what happens here for these guys, as now we're waiting to see who gets off of pit road first. And as they're leaving all their pit boxes, it looks like Dylan Jones is going to be the first guy to make it off pit road. I believe he might have taken 2 tires on that pit stop, and indeed he did. The 11 took 2 tires and was able to be the first car off of pit road, so he apparently saw something that he liked and decided he was going to go for it himself. Freenars came out in second. Then it looks like Sean Boundy came out third off of that race, and then we have Lionel Kalisto and David Comstock right behind them. So a little bit of a shakeup in the lineup here, James. We've got a couple of guys at the front of the field that we haven't really talked about leading this race. Brandon Bowie getting out front for the first time. Austin Coop on the front row as well. And now here comes Sean Boundy into the picture as well, trying to play spoiler.
A lot of stuff going on there. So as we cross the halfway point in tonight's race, we're going to go ahead, especially while we're under yellow, and take a moment to look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, which is brought to you tonight by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. In the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing, with officially sanctioned racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, the Cars Tour, USAC, the VLN Endurance Championship, Blancpain GT, and Red Bull Global Rallycross. Leaderboard looks like this here as we work lap 102. Brandon Bowie, Austin Coop, Dylan Jones, Andrew Freenars, Sean Boundy, Lionel Kalisto, David Comstock, Carl Shedd, Dwayne Vincent, William Hale, your top 10. Tanner Tallarico, Gabe Wood, Ross Cato, Daniel Eberhardt, Corey Wolf, Chris Murdoch, Shane Ewing, Trevor Roppolo, last car on the lead lap in 18th, and then Dave Washington and Douglas Wyatt, 19th and 20th. 21st through 25th are Nelson Rivera, Nick Silver, John Casto, Eric Stanford, Gio Bromontes. We get set to get back to it. Brandon Bowie just about spun the tires there himself, but he made it stick enough. Austin Coop can't get down to the bottom, though, off that restart, and that will open up the door for Dylan Jones, who very kindly slides right on through and should be able to slide right on past the 53 machine as they come out of the corner.
And that's exactly what that 11 machine is going to do, is he's able to get away. Now he sets his sights on the 44 of Brandon Bowie, and with those 2 right side tires, he's able to close right in on the back bumper, but he's got Lionel Kalisto on those 4 tires right behind him, so we have another battle here that's shaping up, and we have a battle for the race lead as Jones looks to the bottom. It looks like Bowie overshot the corner, and that's going to open the door for Dylan to get to him, and they're side by side for the lead as they head to turn 1. Who's going to win this battle? And they can't forget about that 97 machine, as he's right there as well, but Bowie is fighting hard to try to hang on to the lead on the outside line, but I believe Dylan Jones is going to win this battle as they head to 3.
Jones has had speed. He just hasn't had the chance to show it, but the 11 car's there. And then he gets a huge shove from Lionel Kalisto, and Kalisto just pushed Dylan Jones right to the front around Band and Bowie. That's about the best help I think you're going to get from anybody in this field that especially isn't one of your teammates. So Kalisto doing Dylan Jones a huge favor there and moving him to the front. And now looks like Brandon Bowie might be trapped on the outside if he's not careful, but I don't think Freenars was able to get underneath him, and then he dives underneath the 44 once again. So maybe after all it might be Andrew Freenars' spot. And behind all of this, huge battle between Austin Coop and Sean Bowdy going down for the 7th position.
And what this has done is it has cost David Comstock several positions. He's ran up inside the top 5 this entire race, but he's trapped on the outside back in the 9th position right now as a result of this. Just cannot seem to go anywhere, and he's stuck on the outside line, and he continues to lose ground as now he's battling with Tanner Tallarico for the 10th position, just trying to hang on. He's trying to battle Dwayne Vincent, but he's also trying to hold off Tanner Tallarico and find a way to get to the bottom of the racetrack, and it looks like he might finally get that gap, and he will, which is going to allow him to be able to try to hang on to some track position and now try to start marching his way forward. He's able to work around the 53 of Austin Coop and moves forward now, so he's going to have his work cut out for him. And they're 3 wide behind them as Tanner Tallarico, Daniel Eberhardt, and Austin Coop get into it, and there's a little bit of contact between Tanner and Daniel Eberhardt, and Tanner Tallarico is going to be able to hold off Eberhardt for the moment, and now is still trying to make that move and makes more contact with him as they come off turn 2.
Tallarico ran up on the curb inside of the corner a little bit, so that's where that came from. And now I think they do finally have it settled enough as Coop slides way high up the racetrack there, except for the fact that Tallarico couldn't quite get the car going out of the corner, spun the tires a little bit, so that gave room for Eberhardt to go right up to his high side. And it looks like we got one car almost around, and that they do go around in the back. Austin Coop gets into the 16 of Corey Wolf, and I saw one other driver make contact there. I think it might have been the 54 of Chris Murdoch, but that brings the yellow flag out again here at Martinsville.
And this was could have been a much bigger wreck than it ended up being. Only, it looks like maybe 4 cars got caught up in it, but could have been a little bit bigger. And it looks like it was some pretty significant damage back there for, looks like the number 54 machine of Chris Murdoch, who already had some pretty significant damage to begin with. But unfortunate for these guys, and that brings us back under caution, which could mean another round of pit stops, and indeed it will, as all of our race leaders this time have come to pit road, and that is led by Dylan Jones, who's the first guy to slide into his box. He's got an early pit box here because of where he qualified, and that's going to give him an opportunity to go ahead and get his service and try to get down and away cleanly and see if he can't reassume the lead.
Watching to see if anybody takes any strategy here, but for the most part it looks like everybody's just going to follow standard procedure and get 4 tires and fuel. So Jones will lead, and then I get word that we have friends up in front named Andrew Freenars who take 2 tires, and I think David Comstock might have done the same to go get his track position back.
Well, and that's exactly what Comstock needed to do because he got trapped. And Freenars, he's already done the 2 tires once. Why not go for it again? He already knows what the car is going to do. So he's got a pretty good understanding of what he's going to expect. And I think he just prefers the track position over being caught back there behind those guys. So good call for both of these drivers. And Dylan Jones had already done 2 tires, so he almost had to take 4. The one guy I'm really surprised that we haven't seen take a chance here so far yet is Lionel Kalisto. He's had a very fast car, and when he's had the race lead, he's been able to do pretty good. But since he's gotten shuffled back in the lineup a little bit, he just quite hasn't been able to get back to where he needed to be. This is one car that I expected to maybe take some chances here, get the 2 tires, get the track position back, and he might be able to hang on to this thing. So he might be saving that move for later in the race, though. Have to wait and see what happens with that car.
In fairness, though, not like much of the pit strategy that we thought would shake out over the past 20 laps has meant much of anything since it's been broken up by cautions. So it gives you the chance to reset your pit strategy a little bit, and from this stage you're looking at about 85 laps to the end, which will put everybody well clear on fuel. The question will be tires and how you manage them. That is really where things are going to change, because the grip does fade away on these Goodyear Eagles a little bit.
Yeah, and if we can ever get a long green flag run, you're going to see these guys sliding around like nothing you've ever seen. This track turns into a sheet of ice almost once they get 30 or 40 laps on the tires, and it makes for some pretty incredible racing. We're about to go back green here right now, though, and it looks like there's a little bit of a mix-up going on at the front as David Washington is trying to figure out where he's supposed to be, and I'm not sure what happened, but they had to delay the restart, and looks like we're going to have one more lap before they go back green.
One more lap, so we'll reset the top 10 for you. Freenars, Comstock, Jones, Callisto, Hale, your top 5. Bowie, Shed, Vincent. We'll back that up. How about Freenars, Comstock, Jones, Callisto, Hale, your top 5? Then Shed, Bowie, Vincent, Boundy, Eberhardt. And we'll remind you, just to close out our midway race break from the last yellow flag, that if you want more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can head on over to iRacing.com to sign up today. For a limited time, you can visit iRacing.com/World of Outlaws and take advantage of exclusive promo codes to get yourself on the sim with a 1-year membership for half the price. Once again, that's iRacing.com/World of Outlaws as they go 2 by 2 by 2 and march into turn 3 like ducks off this restart. Nothing fancy yet, but Freenars and Comstock still side by side, and Jones got to just barricade it back in there.
And he's got Callisto on the outside, who I was just talking about not really having any track position. He's starting to try to fight his way back into having that track position as he is battling hard on the outside right behind David Comstock and Andrew Freenars, who are still going at it for the race lead. Comstock trying to roll the top and see if he can't take that race lead away. We saw him do this earlier on in the race. Can he make it work this time? That's the big question. He runs wide through 1 and 2 this time. He gives up a little bit of ground, and I believe that's going to allow Andrew Freenars to clear him for the race lead. Indeed, it will. And that's going to move him out in front, and now Comstock is battling with Dylan Jones for second.
Comstock just overshot the corner there, not too much to it there, and now that opens the door for Dylan Jones to get underneath him, so Jones should be able to clear Comstock, and now we'll focus on racing Freenars, and Callisto should be able to get around Comstock here on this lap as well. Can Brandon Bowie do the same?
That's the big question, but right now Callisto's got to be the guy to finish that move, and he just quite wasn't able to do it that time by as Comstock was able to hold on, but Callisto fires back on the inside. Now we have a battle for the lead as Jones looks to the outside of Freenars for the lead off turn 2. Freenars was able to close the door, but Jones had a great run through the middle of the corner, was able to get to his bumper, but just couldn't quite put the gas down quick enough to stay there, and now he's got to try to get it all gathered back up and do it once again, as he was really able to get a charge there, but just wasn't able to finish it off. Meanwhile, this battle for third continues on. It looks like Callisto finally will win that battle, and now here comes Bowie looking to the inside of that 42 machine.
Bowie trying to make things happen there, but nothing crazy yet, and Comstock still trapped up there just like he was on that last restart, so the two-tire call didn't really gain him any space, maybe gained him a few spots back, but he's still kind of slipping back through the field. Should be a gap in front of Tanner Tallarico and company to get back down to the bottom, but it's definitely not what he wanted.
Not at all, but he's still better off than he was prior to this caution because he was running back in the 9th position when that happened, and right now he's sitting in the 6th position, so at least for the moment it's still a net gain. If he loses any more, though, it might end up not working out in his favor, but he's got a gap. He was able to get to the bottom of the racetrack, and he's got some breathing room now where he can just try to get into a rhythm and maybe hang on for another quick caution possibly, but this battle at the front of the field has kind of quieted down. Freenars was able to get away, but Lionel Callisto is all over the back bumper of Dylan Jones, and as soon as I say Freenars was able to get away, he overshot turn 1, and that allowed for Dylan Jones to close that gap right back down, and now Callisto still right on the back bumper of him, just trying to do everything he can to make a move, but there is about to be a battle for the lead, James, as Dylan Jones is almost there.
I mean, I think they're all just kind of stacked up there. It's not just Dylan Jones. You've got Callisto, who hasn't really left the rear bumper of the 11 at all. And then you got Bowie, who's been pressuring Callisto since we dropped the green flag on this most recent restart. And guess who? Daniel Eberhardt, who got caught up in that mess when Nick Silver got turned over by turn 1 not too long ago. He's already back up to 5th. So the front end damage on that 90 car, clearly just an object and not actually affecting the performance of Daniel Eberhardt's car all that much.
And he got away with one right there, and here's a crazy stat for you. And James, I wonder if you would have expected this. I think I probably did. The entire top 7 right now are all playoff contenders. They have dominated this race in that respect, and they all know what's on the line here. A win gets them to Homestead with an opportunity to race for the championship. They have rose to the occasion, and now these 7 drivers are putting on a show. David Washington, the only one that's not in this mix, was caught up in an accident with some lap traffic. He's back in 15th. He still is on the lead lap. He was able to get the lucky dog, James, so if he can catch a couple more cautions, he could still be a factor. Maybe not necessarily for a win, but he could get some points that could be very valuable to his chances of making the Final Four for Homestead as well.
Pressure ramping up here towards the back of the top 5. Look at Daniel Eberhardt now peek underneath the 44 Brandon Bowie to go try and grab that position. They nearly make contact there on corner exit, but as they get into the corner, Eberhardt really trying to drive it hard down on corner entry and get some sort of foothold, but it's just not quite there for him yet.
And now he looks to the outside of the racetrack, tries to carry that speed, but I think he got a little too wide through 3 and 4, lost some ground to Brandon Bowie, and now is going to have to try to gather it back up. And look at Dylan Jones. He's still trying to make that middle groove work as he rolls the middle of the corner, trying to get that run on our race leader, Andrew Friedhardt, but still just not quite close enough to make that move. But he continues to roll the center of the corner a lot better than the 88 machine, and now he gets a good run up off the corner. Is this going to be the move that he needs to make it? He's got the momentum, but doesn't take the shot. He stays behind him, runs that middle groove once again through 1 and 2, and carries another good run up off the corner. When's he going to make the move, James? That's the big question now.
Trying to see how long he's willing to wait and how much he wants to let Lionel Kalisto have a free shot at getting back to his rear bumper, or if he presses the issue now and gets it done, because we're coming in on the 75. Oh, well, we'll take that back. We've already passed the 75. How about the 65 lap to go mark here, which we should hit in about a lap or 2. So beginning to get down towards the end of this thing now. If you want to try and make your move up through the field towards the front, now is the time when I think you have to begin your charge.
And if Owen Bowie gets into the back bumper of Lionel Kalisto, sends him up the track, moves him out of the way, and that's going to shake everything up, and it's going to allow the 88 and the 11 to get away. And now they're 3 wide, almost 3 wide, going off into turn 3 as Daniel Eberhardt tried to make the move, but side by side back here now for the 4th position as Bowie is trying to get around Lionel Kalisto. And we just saw one of the first moves, the bump and run here tonight at Martinsville, the first of what I expect to be very many here in the final stages of this race.
Probably going to see a few more of those before we end tonight's race. Next one might come here. No, it won't even need to come here at the front of the field, because Dylan Jones just got an unbelievable drive coming out of turn 4 to lock himself underneath Friedhardt. And that, well, I thought he was going to be able to hold that and stick it under the 88 and go, but he didn't. He couldn't hang on to it. So instead, it's still Dylan Jones trying to find a way around the 88 machine, but he just can't find a way to do it. Friedhardt is still your race leader.
And the question now becomes, how long can he hold off that 11 machine? He's shown that he's got some speed, but the 11 has shown that he's a little bit quicker. And as you mentioned, we're inside 65 laps to go. The patients are going to begin to run thin. And as they start to close back in on him, as Brandon Bowie, who's in that 3rd position now, they are starting to close back in. The closer that Brandon Bowie gets to the back of the 11, the more impatient you're going to see that number 11 of Dylan Jones get. You might start seeing some more aggressive moves at the front of the field. The question is, do you really want to wait until Bowie gets there? I think if I'm in Dylan Jones' shoes, I'd want to make that move as quickly as possible, try to get around him and try to get away from Bowie before he has an opportunity to run me down and try to take the lead away from me.
In the meantime, pretty good battle going on just behind these guys for the 4th position, because that's where you've got Lionel Kalisto and Daniel Eberhardt running pretty much nose to tail. So Handel, I think, is going away on the 97 a little bit, and Eberhardt now trying to find a way underneath him to go run down Bowie and Jones and Friedhardt.
And the question is just, can he get there? And when he gets there, what kind of move are we going to see him make? I think for Bowie, your best bet is to try to get up there and challenge as quickly as possible. You don't want to allow any of these guys to get on your bumper. You have some breathing room. Now is the time to move. And he's driving the wheels off of that car, trying to do everything he can to get to the back bumper of Dylan Jones. And I see Dylan continuing to move his car up the racetrack, trying to search for a lane that might give him some speed. And as he's done that, I've seen the 44 follow him up the racetrack. They're both starting to move that groove up, running the middle middle through the turn and then arcing that corner down to the bottom of the racetrack. And Jones is now there. He's on the back bumper of the 88, but he just quite wasn't able to get to him to make the move for the race lead right here.
Everhart now just behind them, trying to go on the outside of Kalisto to go get another position, as you've got the 11 now trying to stick it to the outside. Will he hold it up there and keep the 88 from getting up there? Just about. Oh, it's close. It's really, really close now. You just get the feeling that the speed on the outside might make the difference, but he can't quite do it yet. And now Brandon Bowie's back into this, so Dylan Jones is going to have to be careful to make sure he doesn't get past.
Well, and this is where things are going to start getting really hairy, because Bowie knows he's got a fast enough car to challenge these guys. He has been able to close them down, and now we have a side-by-side battle for the lead as Jones was able to get to the outside of the 88, and now he's going to try to keep that nose out there. He gets a good run up off the corner, and side-by-side for the lead as they head to turn 3. Freenar's on the bottom, Jones on the top. They try to fight for this lead, and they know, Freenar's knows this is his ticket to Homestead. If he can hold on and win this race, he's guaranteed a spot in the Final Four. He slides up the track in one, almost makes contact with his teammate, and now here comes Bowie. Will he make the move? No, he won't. Looks like Jones finally will make the move and be able to complete the pass for the lead, and that's going to allow the 11 to go by, and now here comes Bowie trying to take away the second spot.
I think that speaks to just how poorly the 88 is handling at the moment more than anything else, because it just does not drive up off the corner the way that Andrew Freenars would want it to. And that's why Jones was able to use that harder and that slower lane on the outside to get around him, because the corner drives off were just absolutely nothing for Freenars within those past few laps. And you're seeing it now with Bowie. Bowie has managed to clear Freenars. Next up on the list is going to be his teammate Daniel Everhart, and then Lionel Kalisto. So 88 now beginning to drop like a stone as these laps start to rub the track in.
Yeah, it just looks like the grip has gone away on that 88 machine, and without the help of a caution, he's going to be in trouble here over the next handful of laps. The big question now becomes, can Brandon Bowie run down Dylan Jones and be able to take the lead away and ultimately take away a free ticket to Homestead? That's what he's looking for right now, and that's what all of these drivers are looking for right now, with the top 6 all being playoff contenders. If any one of them gets a victory, we know they will be battling for the championship at Homestead. That's what it's all about here inside the final 50 laps at Martinsville. Brandon Bowie is trying to close that gap down. It's about a half a second right now, James. He's got plenty of time, but you don't want to wait to the end. You want to do that move as quickly as possible, try to get away from him, and try to drive away into the sunset with the victory.
And oh, by the way, Daniel Everhart was able to clear Lionel Kalisto and all that madness too. So there's another driver that you can try and see if he can get up towards the front of this thing. And the fastest cars on track may well just be he, Jones, and Brandon Bowie, who happen to make up 3 of your top 4 at the moment. So Jones trying to hold it down. Bowie, though, is coming a little bit, not a lot, and he actually gave up a 10th that last time by, so it looks like the lap times are kind of wavering with the 44 machine. He might be able to run the 11 down, but he needs some sort of strategy, either a lot of cautions to break this up right at the end and a pit stop, or a long green flag run to make his tires work really, really well.
And right now it looks like Dylan Jones is beginning to get away, as actually Brandon Bowie was able to close that gap down by just a couple thousandths. But we got a wreck on the backstretch, one around on the backstretch. That's Douglas Wyatt. That's going to bring out that caution that you were just talking about, and we are back under caution here at Martinsville. The 33 of Douglas Wyatt goes around. Looks like he just got loose coming off the corner. That was right in front of the leaders and could have been very big, but he was able to keep that car to the bottom of the racetrack, and all of the leaders were able to escape unscathed. But now, James, these guys have a decision to make. They're going to come to pit road. The question is, do they get 2 or do they get 4?
Big question, since this might be it. No surprises, I think, here. Everybody comes down pit road, and does anybody go for 2 tires in this? You wonder if David Comstock might, since he's kind of mired back in traffic again and currently runs in the 8th position. Outside of him, I'm not convinced that we'll see it from anyone.
That was a pretty long green flag run, so I think here the best call would be 4 tires, but we've seen all night long guys taking a chance on 2, so we'll have to wait and see what happens as Dylan Jones is going to get 4 tires and fuel. He's about to be leaving his pit box, and now he's going to try to win the race off the pit road if he can. Looking back to the front of the field, Brandon Bowie is getting 4 tires and fuel as well. He's not going to win the race off pit road as Dylan Jones is already down and away and past him, and now they're battling, scrapping for who's going to get second. I can't tell who that's going to be that's got it, but it looks like it's going to end up being Bowie in second, and then Freenars in third, maybe Callisto in fourth, and then it looks like Daniel Eberhardt came out in fifth here. So we're going to have a very exciting restart, and everybody took 4, James, so there's going to be no games here on this next restart as far as that's concerned.
That's the thing that jumped out to me. Everybody took 4 tires. Nobody wanted to chance it on track strategy, track position, and try and hang out there with old tires. And I have a feeling that the way Freenars performed in that last green flag run might have something to do with that, because you could really tell that the 88 just had no grip towards the end of that run right before the yellow came out. I think everybody recognized the importance of 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles to get you home to the end of this thing with a chance for a decent finish.
Well, not only that, but I also look at it as we have 44 laps to go right now. More than likely, we're not going to go to the end without another caution. If I'm the driver here, I want 4 tires this time, so if we get a caution in 10 or 15 laps, then I have the option to take 2 tires closer to the end of the race where I don't have as many laps to worry about trying to hold these guys off. I think this was a good call on all of their parts, and now the question just becomes if or when we get that caution, what will they do? That's what we're going to have to wait and see. Assuming we do get another caution, they could surprise us. We could go green to the end from here.
And here's your friendly early reminder, just in case, that our patented Evan Pasoko point of no return, 5 laps to go. We got a yellow flag underneath that. That is when we know that we will not be able to finish the race under green, since iRacing does not have a green-white checker rule. Restart, though, here to come on lap 159. Jones, Bowie, Freenars, Callisto, Eberhardt, Shed, Comstock, Vincent, Boundy, Tallarico. Your top 10 when they come back to the start-finish line. Jones goes. Jones just, my goodness, did he drive away from everybody by about 5 or 6 car lengths there, just out of the corner. So he's gone and away and will drive off the front of this thing. Behind him, Brandon Bowie going at it with Andrew Freenars trying to go get the second spot. Looks like that might eventually be Freenars's, but it's going to take a few laps for that to happen, and those few laps are all that Dylan Jones needs to run away with this.
And right now this battle continues to rage on as Freenars is trying to hold on and get that second position, and as they work through 3 and 4, Brandon Bowie is just not willing to give up, but he makes a little bit of a mistake in the middle of the corner. It looks like he got a little sideways, and that allowed for Freenars to get clear. And now here comes Daniel Eberhardt to the inside trying to make that move. He dove it into the corner, was able to make it stick, and now he's trying to take away that third position, and they're side by side for third. They're also side by side right behind them. David Comstock, Lionel Callisto battling for that 5th and 6th position right there.
2 by 2 a little bit there towards the back of the top 5, but Dylan Jones is absolutely gone off the front of this, or at least gone off the front of it by Martinsville standards, because normally you don't see gaps of 5 or 6 car lengths off a restart. So a lot of power underneath that 11 machine to get it way up towards the front, but I don't think it could be too much of a surprise. He qualified 14th, but you know, the Aegis Motorsports stable, they've got enough resources that if you look at one guy, and especially with their alliance with PowerTech, if your setup isn't necessarily working, somebody else's probably is. And I think that was the case for Jones, who did not have great practice times, was only 11th fastest in this field, qualified 14th, and all of a sudden has come to the race and looks like a guy who you're going to have to drive through and beat to get the trophy tonight.
Now the problem is, in order to drive through them, you have to catch them, and right now nobody is able to do that as Freenars is driving the wheels off that car, just trying to stay with them, and he just quite can't do it right now. As now Brandon Bowie, who is able to fend off that number 90 of Daniel Eberhardt, he's trying to set his sights back on the 88 of Andrew Freenars to see if he can't get that second position away and try to move himself into a position to chase down Dylan Jones. But the problem is he can't catch the 88 right now, so everybody's chasing everybody, and it looks like this is going to be a drag race back to the end of this race.
all chasing the 11 machine, but it's not Denny Hamlin in this case. It's Dylan Jones, another driver with a D name, getting it done tonight. And he's been very, very stable, easily the most planted car that we've seen at the front of the field, and no one's been able to control the race like this as we creep up on the 30 to go mark. It really has been him, and that everybody else just kind of racing for second on back since we got the green flag to kick this run off about 10 laps ago.
And I still want to just give a shout out to Lionel Callisto, having an incredible race. He's still running up inside the top 5 here with less than 40 laps to go, and in a really good position where if he can catch a break, he could have a shot to go for the win. I just love that he's rose to the occasion since getting into the round of 8, showing a lot of speed here tonight. He's trying to chase down the number 90 of Daniel Eberhardt, not quite close enough to do anything with him right now, but having an incredible drive and doing everything he needs to do to try to move into the final 4. But this is really starting to shape up to be Dylan Jones' race. We haven't seen anybody jump out to a lead like this at all tonight, but now that we're getting down to it, the 11 is showing the speed that I think we all kind of expected him to show here tonight.
You figure that somebody from Aegis is going to be able to come through and deliver, and it's just a matter of whether or not the cards play out the way they need to. And David Washington looks like the hand to roll with early in this race, and then he got caught up in that wreck, and ever since, it's been a little bit quiet up towards the front of the field. A lot of the Power Tech guys have had good days, but you haven't necessarily seen one from Aegis proper until Dylan Jones came up through the field in the first quadrant of the second half of the race. This stint from lap 100 to 125 is really what he got himself in the mix, and from there it's just been a matter of kind of racing up through the field to go up and grab this race by the horns, and he really has taken it to him. Friedenar is now back by 1.2 seconds, which is about as large a gap for the lead as we've seen all year long.
And he just continues to drive away, and if you're Andrew Friedenars, you're watching that free ticket to Homestead drive away in your windshield, and it's got to be one of the most frustrating feelings in the world to know that you've had a fast car all night long. He's led a lot of laps here tonight, but just doesn't quite have the speed to get there, and without the help of a caution at this point, I don't know if he's going to be able to get there. Brandon Bowie, though, continues to pressure him for that second position, so he's got to be very careful about that as well. He's got that 44 really all over him, trying to take that position away, and Bowie's one of those guys that he had a really good car on the long run, but we haven't had a lot of long runs since we saw the first one to open up this race, and it just really hasn't played into his favor since. But now if he can get a run to the finish here, he could potentially show some speed that might be able to challenge that 11 car. The problem is he's got to get around the 88 before he can do that.
The other problem is running out of time. 26 laps to go now for Dylan Jones. So you have to find a way around Friedenars quickly if you're Bowie, and then just absolutely mash the gas to go try and catch Dylan Jones. Certainly is possible. The problem is that it's not probable.
And he's continuing to struggle to get around the 88 machine. He's moved that line up once again. Now he's pretty much running that third groove or second groove all the way through the corner, and it's carrying some really good speed off the corner and down the straightaway. The problem is he just can't get there to be able to get to his door, and he's realized that he's not going to be able to make that move to the bottom very easily, so he's kind of committed himself to the outside right now, and it's just not working in his favor. But showing some speed, and he actually gained a little bit of time on the leader, as did Andrew Friedenars that last time by. They both gained about a tenth of a second. Could just have to wait and see if that becomes a routine thing for these guys. Maybe they're starting to figure this thing out. We'll have to see when they get back to the stripe this time to see what happens. But Bowie is doing everything he can at this point, and to go back to the timing, it looks like both of these guys lost time to the leaders that time by, so not really gaining at this point. They just continuing to race with one another.
0.2 of a second that last time by, so those two will go at it, and then looks like you got Eberhardt and Callisto still going at it. David Comstock sitting in 6th. He's managed to clear Carl Shedd, although Shedd might get it underneath him here since Comstock was able to bobble just a little bit in the corner. Didn't quite work out for him, but that might actually be your best battle on track at the moment.
Just continuing to go at it here, lap after lap after lap. Carl Shedd on the bottom trying to get around David Comstock, and they just continue to fight. Carl Shedd's starting to show some speed to the bottom of the racetrack here, and now right in front of them, Lionel Kalisto is trying to battle with Daniel Eberhardt. But a couple of really good battles, like you mentioned, James, in the closing stages of this race, and these are valuable points on the line for each of these drivers. It's 1 point per position on the racetrack, and for Carl Shedd, that 1 point might be the difference between making it to Homestead with a chance to win the championship versus just going there watching 4 other drivers go after it. So you've got to treat every position like it's the most important position on the racetrack at this stage of the race, because you just don't know how important that's going to be when we get to Phoenix in a couple of weeks.
And you don't know what kind of things you're going to have to go through in the next 2 races and change at Texas and Phoenix. So could get a little bit more complicated on that front too, and you want a sort of buffer room if you can have it, kind of like what David Washington had when he got caught up in that wreck earlier. He was running almost past the 20s at the time, but currently actually sits scored in, I believe, 12th position on the lead lap. So a good recovery for the 98.
Yeah, that's just what you have to do when you're a championship contender. You have to stay in this race, and that's exactly what they did. They continued to tinker with that car, try to fix the damage as best as they could, stay in this race, stay involved. They were able to get a couple of breaks with the Lucky Dog, and now with the couple of wrecks that we've seen, they were able to steal some points, and this could end up being a better day than we expected them to have, and that's very important for the number 98 machine. Meanwhile, we have to look at this battle still raging on back here between the number 97 and the 90 as Kalisto's continuing to try to make that move. He's able to get to the door of Eberhardt just about every corner, but he just can't carry that speed off the corner to be able to actually challenge him for the position. And this time now it looks like Eberhardt's going to hang on, but now we have a battle going on for second as Bowie actually got loose coming off the corner and lost some ground to Freenarge there off turn 2.
He just about had it set up, and then he didn't have it set up. The Freenarge gave him a little free pass there because it looks like he bobbled on corner exit. So Hanel might be going away on the 88 machine once again, and that's something that I think we'll have to watch, and something that somebody like Brandon Bowie would love to take advantage of here in the closing stages of this race.
And doing everything he can, trying to take that position away from Freenarge as he is closing in on him once again, moves to the middle of the racetrack, trying to carry that speed off the corner, gets a great run up off the corner, but just doesn't quite have the track position to make that move going off into turn 3, and now goes to the outside once again, trying to see if he can't stick a nose out there, but just can't quite get the power down this time, and Freenarge is able to hold on. Now Freenarge blocks the bottom of the racetrack. That's going to allow Bowie to get to the outside, and Bowie is going to try to carry that speed through the middle of the corner. Can he get the run up off the corner this time? Looks like he's going to have the momentum, gets a little sideways and almost makes contact with the wall, and that's going to hurt his chances here at taking that position away, as now Freenarge is able to get clear and retain that second position.
Almost got the wall. I'd say he did get the wall a little bit, and it's just a matter of how do you regroup and try and find a way around the 88 machine. That's the big question, I think, that everybody would like to know the answer to. But as it stands, Dylan Jones here now out by about a quarter of a turn, and 2.6 seconds about to be updated here as they cross the stripe to get 11 to go, and up to 2.7, almost 2.8 seconds now. So Freenarge has got the track position, and he is rolling at the moment.
And just trying to get through this race, 10 more laps for Dylan Jones, and if he can come away with a win. And we had an issue with one of our championship contenders. We were just talking about him, Dave Washington. It looks like he had an issue, did not bring out a caution. I believe the motor may have expired on that number 98 machine. Indeed, that is the case. He was able to get it to pit road cleanly without bringing out a caution, but that will cost him a handful of points at the end of this thing and could be a difference maker here. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Right now he scored in the 15th position. Looks like he's only going to lose one more spot, would fall back to 16th, so it's not going to be a huge break or problem for the number 98 machine, but certainly going to cost him some points here.
And yeah, not too much, I think. Looks like Ross Cato's the only other car on track that could, in theory, pass David Washington just by running on off laps. So that means Washington would finish in the 16th position if that plays out the way we think it will. In the meantime, though, Dylan Jones, 3-second lead for this man who has been dominant in the final third of this race, and now just has to execute to go find his spot in the Championship 4 at Homestead, Miami.
And there was a nice battle for second, but that has kind of calmed down. Now the battle is still on between Daniel Eberhardt and Lionel Callisto, as Eberhardt's just trying to hold on to that 4th position, and Callisto is trying to take it away from him. Callisto has been able to get to his back bumper, but just hasn't been able to make that move to get to his door. And with about 6 laps remaining here, he's starting to run out of time. And the question now becomes, does he have enough time to do anything? It looks like Eberhardt hit the curb right there. That's going to allow Callisto to get to his back bumper once again. And now he's got an opportunity to do something down here in turn 3, but he's just not quite close enough. Almost tries to use the bumper in the middle of the corner. I don't think he made contact, but that was pretty darn close right there.
Just kind of watching, waiting, and seeing what happens here. It doesn't look like Bowie's got the speed right now to try and get around Freenars, so might be P2 for Freenars if he can hang on to it, and then a big run here for the 90 if he can hang on.
Especially considering he did not qualify in this race, started all the way back in the 23rd position. We talked about it at the beginning of the race, how he had to be very patient working his way up through the field. It worked out, but now the battle is on for second as Bowie was able to get the run up off the corner, and now he's door to door with Freenars once again. I believe Freenars might have gotten loose to allow this battle to start, and now Bowie has the outside line. Can he make the pass this time? As they come off the corner, he's got the run, but so does Freenars. They're door to door, and they are even at the stripe, and they are drag racing around this little half-mile paperclip, and they continue to be side by side as they come off turn 2.
They will go side by side. That may well last until the last lap. But as Dylan Jones comes off of turn 4, it's 2 more corners for the driver of the number 11 machine, who started in 14th, didn't have the greatest beginning in practice, and is going to come through turns 3 and 4 and become the first man to find himself in the Championship 4 at Homestead, Miami for 2017. Dylan Jones wins the first race of the round of 8 at Martinsville. And then Brandon Bowie was able to get around Andrew Freenars on the outside to go get second. Freenars slipped back to third. Eberhardt and Callisto, your top 5.
And what an incredible drive for all these drivers here tonight, as the entire top 7, James, were playoff contenders. They rose to the occasion. They all finished top 7, and Dylan Jones is our first official driver to be going for the victory and for the championship when we get to Homestead in about 3 weeks.
Big run for Dylan Jones. Big run for Dylan Jones. We'll see what he says about it. On the other side of this commercial break, we'll run through the leaderboard and talk to your top 3 finishers. But in the meantime, you're watching coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series, presented by Gary Mercer Trucking on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Welcome back to LSRTV's coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking, where Martinsville is in the books for 2017, as is our first race of the round of 8, and Dylan Jones is the first man to punch his ticket to Homestead and confirm his place as one of the 4 drivers to race for the 2017 Full Throttle Cup Series Championship by virtue of his victory tonight. Jones wins at Martinsville. Brandon Bowie comes home second. Andrew Freedorns finishes third on the evening. Daniel Everhart rebounded from a mid-race wreck to finish fourth. Lionel Calisto will come home in fifth. David Comstock finishes sixth. Carl Shedd is seventh. Dwayne Vincent eighth. Gabe Wood comes out of nowhere to get ninth. And then Tanner Tamarico rounds out your top 10.
Sean Bounty will finish in the 11th position here tonight. He was the last car running on the lead lap. Everybody else finished at least one lap down. Shane Ewing finishes in the 12th position. Austin Coop comes home 13th. Then we have Ross Cato in the 14th position. William Hale will finish 15th. And he was the last car, I believe, running on the racetrack when this thing came to the finish. David Washington was the race leader early on, got caught up with some lap traffic, had some damage. It resulted in a blown motor, and he will finish 16th here tonight. Then we have Douglas Wyatt in 17th. Trevor Roppolo finishes in the 18th position. Then we have Chris Murdoch in 19th, and rounding out the top 20, we have Corey Wolf, who finishes in the 20th position.
Final 5 cars scored. Nelson Rivera, Nick Silver, Sean Casto, Eric Stanford, and Gio Bramonte finished 21st through 25th. And that is a look at tonight's full field rundown for our 33rd race, about 36 at Martinsville Speedway. And from there, we turn to Victory Lane on the front straight and move to the man who has won and found his way into the championship for. Dylan Jones is the first man who knows he will be racing for the championship this season, and I think we obviously know it's a big deal on paper to do that, Dylan, but when you put it in the context of all of the work that you and everybody at Aegis have done over the course of the 2017 season to get yourselves to Homestead and be eligible to win the championship, just how much does it mean to you to be able to be there?
Oh, it means everything. That was the goal from when we started at Daytona. I mean, all season, just to get yourself in position to get to that last race at Homestead. And that's the best thing about this race, is at the end of it, I can say I'm going to Homestead. And that's all that matters in the end.
And we talk about patience, I think, a lot from the very best drivers at Martinsville, in a place where it's so easy to lose your cool. You had to exhibit a lot of it because you didn't start up at the front like most of the drivers who you ended up racing at the end did. You had to drive your way through them and pick everybody off one by one. So just talk a little bit about the process of keeping a cool head, especially in that first 100 laps, to get yourself up to the front where you could start racing guys for the lead.
Yeah, our qualifying effort tonight was definitely not on par with what I felt like I should have been able to do. But once you know you're back there, you just got to put your mindset to you can't win it on lap 1, and you just got to take it lap by lap. And, you know, you can't gain a bunch here. You got to just eat away at people in front of you. You just got to gain little chunks at a time. It's so easy to want to drive it off in there and try and gain a car length, but that's not how it works. You just got to gain little bits and get that run and exit to get the passes, which takes the most patience, just setting them up and making sure you can get that power down better than they can.
And if I were to take a guess, obviously winning 2 more of these wouldn't hurt because it would put the pressure on everybody else. But, there's definitely a little bit of ease in it, knowing that you're already going to be racing in the championship race at Miami. And so you just kind of want to go out there and do the best you can, but also make sure that you save a little bit for the finale.
Oh no, we're definitely going out there to win it all. I mean, we got a lot of teammates out there trying to get in it, but they're competition right now to me. I mean, I hope they're make it in, but we're going to go out there and try and win every race from here to Homestead. There's No prisoners.
I know there are a lot of people that make it happen for you, Dylan. So send your thank yous and shout outs at this moment and let everybody know who is responsible for making this 11 car so quick.
Obviously, thanks to everyone at Aegis. This team is pretty amazing with all the work and camaraderie we all have with each other and making each other faster week in and week out. Everyone at LSRTV for putting this all on, and all the drivers out here tonight. It was a really clean race considering for Martinsville for the most part.
Well, thanks for the time, Dylan, and we will see you next week in Texas.
10-4.
There's your race winner, Dylan Jones, and from there we turn to the other side of the pit wall where Brian Macklin is on pit road, and he has caught up with the driver of the number 44 and runner-up in tonight's race, playoff contender Brandon Bowie.
Indeed, I have finished second here tonight at the Martinsville Speedway. Brandon Bowie, you had a fast car, but just not quite fast enough to run down that number 11 machine. Take us through your night.
Yeah, man, that was a crazy race. With the short run we had, or short long run, I guess we can say, and then the mini cautions. I don't know how many there was, and then to finally get a decent long run. I think it was the caution before the last where me and Dylan were first and second, and I kind of felt like I was kind of keeping from him. And then the caution came out, and I knew at that point that was probably the end because it took too long for me to get up the speed and everything. But overall, good results today. Not what I was hoping for. I was actually really hoping for a win, but we'll go to Texas and see what we can do there.
And talking about Texas, how do you expect to do at that 1.5 mile speedway when we get out there next week? Of course, with the worn out surface and the tire wear obviously being a big factor, do you expect that you'll be able to get up there and challenge these guys when you get there next week? Last time we went there in the spring, you finished third and you had a very fast car. Do you think you can get up there and challenge them?
Definitely. I think I could definitely get up there, do it again. And I think I said last week, these next 3 tracks were going to be my best chances to actually win a race. I finished second today. I just need to get one more spot next week. I feel strongly possibly getting a win next week. I just gotta do what I did today, and just get one position better, and we can get it done.
And unofficially looking at the points, it looks like you are 11 points outside of the cut line when we finish things up here tonight at Martinsville. Obviously, you feel like you can go win any of the next couple of races, but if a win's not on the table, what do you have to do in order to make up that gap and get yourself into the Final Four based on points?
Top 3. I mean, there's nothing else I can really do but finish the 3. I have to finish top 3. And I hate to say it, but if somebody else has trouble in the next 2 weeks, that helps me just that little bit more to possibly make that top 4. But I mean, to be completely honest with you, it's not going to be easy. I mean, for me to finish second, I'm still that many points out. It's going to be tough, but I'm keep trucking and keep pushing myself to try to get a win.
That's all you can do, and we wish you the best of luck in your race next week at Texas, and of course in 2 weeks at Phoenix as you attempt to try to make it into the Final Four at Homestead. But before we let you go, Brandon, sponsor shout-outs. Who makes it happen for you on the 44 machine?
I definitely got to thank Little Star Motorsports, Shane, Ewing. Got to definitely thank Trey, our spotter, for coming on board. My family for definitely allowing me to be able to race here. You guys for always broadcasting the race. I plan on definitely going back and watching it again. And got to thank the man upstairs because he allows me to wake up there.
Well, congratulations on your second place finish here tonight at Martinsville, and good luck next week at Texas, Brandon.
Thanks, Brian.
That was Brandon Bowie, driver of the number 44. He got a second place finish here tonight at Martinsville, looking to advance into the round of 4 at Homestead. And now, Mr. Pike, I believe you've caught up with our third place finisher, another driver that led a lot of laps here tonight, but came up just a handful short, Andrew Freenars, who finishes third.
Finishes third, still is in the hunt for it in the playoffs. Not quite the finish that he wanted, but still, all in all, Andrew, would say probably a good night for you and that 88 team.
Yeah, pretty solid night. I mean, run top 3. I didn't even think we'd be close to that. Kind of getting tired of finishing these runner-ups and thirds. I think 3 out of the last 4 races we finished second, and then we get the third tonight. So we're getting close to that win, but it's so hard to win with teammates that I have like Dylan and Dave there. I think Dave probably would have been right there with Dylan at the end of that race, but he got caught in that wreck. But yeah, definitely a solid run. We got to be happy that we finished top 3, and we'll move on to Texas.
Talk a little bit about your setup there. We saw it on the broadcast. It looked like the handle just kind of went away a little bit as the runs wore on. Was that more of a mechanical thing, or was that more of a you driving thing? Could you tell at all which one it was and why the grip kind of fell away?
Yeah, I think I started my brake bias kind of low, and I was trying to I would struggle on entry really into the corners, and that would kill my center speed, and I think that's where I was losing it. Try to go up on the brake bias, adjusting to try something, but I just could not figure out entry on the longer runs. Short runs, I think we had maybe top 3 car. Long runs we really just fell off, but yeah.
We've got points here, and as the cut line gets updated, you are, as it stands, 11 points out of the top 4, even with a good finish like this. So I think it begs the question, do you bother worrying about whether or not it's a win versus a top 3 finish at this rate? Or, is it just one of those cases where you're just going to try and do the absolute best that you can, hope it's a win, and if it is, it is. If it isn't, it isn't. You're just going to see how the rest of it shakes out.
Yeah, our focus for these 3 races in this round, I told Steve, my crew chief, at the beginning, we're going for wins. That's why we took 2 tires a few times during that race. It put us with good track position in the lead. We were able to lead some laps there, but we're coming into all these races right now just trying to win. We're making calls that we usually wouldn't, but a top 3, even with a top 3, we're not going to make the round on points, I don't think. So we're coming out for a win, and unfortunately, we didn't get it tonight, but, still a top 3 run.
A lot of people I know that go into this and make it all possible. So go ahead and give your thank yous and your shout outs to the people that are responsible for this 88 car speed.
Yeah, first off, I had to say thanks to my mom. I actually lost power at my house last night, and I did not get it back yet. So my mom played a big factor tonight. She actually let me set my rig up right in her living room and use her internet, so this wouldn't even be possible without her, so big thank you to my mom. LSRTV for broadcasting the race. You guys always do a great job. I enjoy watching the races back. Everybody on the Sages team, Andy put the paints on. Dave, Dylan, Carl, just everybody on there. Steve on the box did a great job. My dad, my grandpa, my brother for building the computer. It wouldn't be possible to run the sim without him. And big shout out to Sean, probably one of the biggest fans I have, so I enjoy him watching, and all the fans that came out tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for your time, Andrew, and for your part in putting on the show this evening, and we will see you down in Texas next Monday night.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
There's Andrew Freenars, your 3rd place finisher tonight, and with that, Mr. Macklin, I guess if you're hungry, like I feel like I am, you turn to the hot dog stand and go get yourself a few hot dogs and take in the autumn foliage that surrounds Martinsville at this time of year and is so beautiful in the Virginia Highlands. And then you get in your car and you leave and you get prepped for the long trip down to Fort Worth, Texas, which is where we'll be next Monday night for the 3rd to last race in the 2017 season.
And I'll tell you, the easiest trip that anybody's going to get to make next week is going to be Dylan Jones. He gets to go there knowing he's going to race for a championship regardless of what happens. He can go out there and get wrecked on lap 1, and he's still going to be able to go on and compete. So he's going to have the easiest trip out there. It's going to be quite a good week for him. As far as the rest of these guys, they have to worry, and they will be very stressed over the next 7 days as we lead up to that race. And it's going to be a wild battle looking at the unofficial points after tonight's race. Of course, Dylan Jones is locked in virtue of the win here tonight at Martinsville. David Washington was able to hold on. He's in second right now. Comstock is in third. Daniel Eberhardt currently holds the cutoff spot, and then it gets hairy from that point forward. Carl Shedd is 10 points out. Brandon Bowie is 11, as well as Andrew Freenarge is 11, and Lionel Kalisto is 23 points out. So for those 4 drivers, the points are not in their favor right now, James. It's going to be hard to make up 10 points on the guys that are ahead of you right now, and Eberhardt's the only one that they're very close to. If you look ahead of that, Comstock is 17 ahead of Carl Shedd and 18 ahead of Freenarge and Bowie, and even more than that over Kalisto. It's basically a must-win, in my opinion, for those 4 drivers over the next 2 weeks.
They've got time, and we'll see what they can do next Monday night, 9:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we give you your friendly reminder to roll back the clocks this week and make sure that you're all set on Sunday morning to get yourself into winter hibernation mode as far as that goes. And we'll be back here on Monday night to bring you more action from the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking here on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. So for my colleague up in the booth, Mr. Brian Macklin, for our lovely and talented producer down in the virtual production trailer, Mr. Cisco Scaramuza, Kyle Barnes, and Doug Atkinson at Real Sim Racing, and for Laura Lawson, DJ Lyon, and Evan Pisoko at LSRTV, I am James Pike, thanking you for watching tonight's broadcast just off the side of Highway 220 here in Martinsville. And we'll see you next Monday night from the Lone Star State. Good night, everyone.